This is the Inspection Pros Podcast, where we break down everything you need to know to grow a successful home inspection company. Join host Jake as we get insider knowledge from the industry's best on how to take your business to the next level.
Welcome back to the Inspection Pros Podcast. Today, I'm very excited to once again have with me Dave Kogan, the Director of Integration and Partnerships at Residential Warranty Services. Dave, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I love being on here.
Yeah, we love having you. So this is probably around the third time, maybe more that we've had you on the show. I love just getting the rundown on what's the status quo of the industry from your perspective, having a great view of the industry. And then I want to talk a little bit about events with you. So today with Dave, we're going to talk about what Residential Warranty Services is up to, what's going on in the industry for marketing, what do you need to pay attention to, and then we're going to talk a little bit about events. So Dave, first off, I want to start. What's going on in the world of RWS? What have you guys been up to?
So, if people haven't heard yet, if they've been living under a rock, Porch has acquired everything RWS, including Inspection Services Group, and our inspection call center, and our pretty much every entity that's part of us except for the Breeze Radon system and the Priority Lab. And then Home Inspection University was part of this, and it's now Porch did not acquire that either. That's a Nathan and Mike Casey joint project. But beyond that, everything else. So and then also recently, Porch acquired Home Inspector Pro. So if people hadn't heard about that, they did acquire that as well. They're kind of like, it's almost like a home gauge situation, it seems like, where it's a wholly owned subsidiary kind of situation. Where Dominic is definitely still in control, and they're helping out with the back end stuff. So there's lots of things going on, lots of bundling of services between all of all the business units within Porch now, where we can just really offer you a lot of great products and services. So, and there'll be lots of new things coming up, probably within the next year or so. So just hold on to your hat. It's going to be a wonderful ride. Awesome.
It's great to hear. So I'm sure there sounds like there's a lot going on with the acquisitions, but I'm sure with the acquisition of RWS by Porch, there comes a lot of questions from home inspectors that you work with. Have you gotten any questions of what's going to change in the relationship?
Yeah, so, I mean, lots of different things are coming up, and, they're always wondering, are we going to lose our next inspect? Are we going to lose our call center? Because Porch has America's call center. They have ISN. These are things that are not going anywhere. They are improving upon what we've got. We acquired the E&O service that Nathan had created about a year and a half ago, so there'll be updates coming out about the E&O service soon, and great updates coming up. They're really improving upon everything that's going on on a daily basis, and so
that's great.
If you don't see stuff now, you'll see stuff in the near future. Porch has got a few things coming out soon that I think the industry will be very excited for. So yeah, I think I think everyone should just keep watching in their social media groups. People should try not to freak out too much about what's going on in the industry. I think having this addition of, whether it's Porch is acquiring things or other companies are acquiring things or companies and how multi-inspector firms are growing or they're acquiring smaller businesses. These are all good things coming with the industry. Nothing, I don't think people really need to worry too much about anything, because everything that we are doing and everything that's going on is definitely a plus for this industry, and all it's doing is enhancing our industry and giving us a greater foothold within the whole real estate space, and gives us a better foothold for coming to the table and negotiating and talking with realtors and whatnot. So it's all good.
So it
just
sounds
like you
like
guys with your improvements.
absolutely. It sounds like there's a lot of innovation, a lot of improvements coming, and that's great. And this is on the micro scale. And now I'm sure you've also heard of a lot of changes happening in the industry on the macro level. So I'd love for you to speak to that. Have you seen? Um, I know you get a lot of questions, so I'm wondering: have you seen a lot of questions on what's going on with the status quo of the industry? What do you kind of see tides shifting in the home inspection space?
Yeah, one of the main questions that always keeps coming up, and it's always this worry. I think that this that everything's being gobbled up by some big conglomerate company, and still 70% of the industry is still the smaller home inspection business. It's been like that for a long time. That's really not changing at this point. Newer inspectors may be coming into the industry, and they're joining up with more of some of the bigger multi-inspector firms, or with some of the franchises and such. But really, you still have that balance of that 70% being the smaller business, and that's not going anywhere. So bigger companies, you've got like Porch, where they're acquiring. The good thing on the grand scale is that we're able to then bring a wealth of products and services to whether it's the multi-inspector firm or the smaller inspector firm, and they can then enjoy these products and services at a reduced cost. Like especially when it's bundled. So if you're getting you don't have to go piecemeal anymore, where it's just where you just have this. Basically, if you just have like one product or one service, so if it's America's Call Center that you're using or Next Inspect that you're using, you can bundle these things up. I mean, you can bundle it potentially with or you can bundle it potentially with merchant service providing like Guardian. So you can really or utilize your Home Inspector Pro and have everything else connected and integrated within it. So I think from anyone's perspective, on a macro level, what you're getting is not some company that's coming in and taking over. It's really a company that's coming in and saying, hey, there's better ways to handle your business, and we're here to help you do that. And so we're here to help you grow your business.
And that is great to have these, like, a cookie cutter option for someone that wants to come in and say, hey, all right, here you go. Here's an ecosystem that is all encompassing. It's got everything you need. But now I'm wondering, do you see a lot of questions from people that say, hey, what if we want freedom of choice for that? If we want to be able to choose specific softwares or services?
And you can still do that. Yeah, absolutely. Customer, inspectors, customers, clients, whatever you want to call them, on our end of things, really, they still have the opportunity to pick and choose what they want to use. They can bundle it. They don't have to. They can use software that's outside the system if they choose. They don't have to go with Home Inspector Pro or Palm Tech that we're utilizing, or ISN, or they can use other payment providers. There's two very good ones out in the industry, like you guys. So they with us, you can use anything you want and integrate it with our systems. We're not going to alienate you. I mean, of course, we want you to bundle with our systems, but you don't have to.
And I want to highlight that very quickly, because there are, if someone's a home inspector is worried that a conglomerate or big company's going to come in and take away your freedom of choice, I like that you guys aren't doing that. That Porch hasn't done that. That is huge, because you give them, you're giving inspectors the ability to choose what they want to use. So at that point, what do you have to do? You have to provide a level of service that makes them want to use you and choose them. And that's why I love the freedom of choice in this industry, because there are softwares that will have exclusive deals with third parties, and if you want to use their software and they might have a fantastic product, you have to use this other software that they have a relationship with. And
exactly.
What does that do? It takes away your freedom of choice. You now can't choose the best option for you. So I love that. That sounds like something that if you just hear it out of context, it might be something that could raise a little bit of nerves for a home inspector, saying, hey, I got to be careful because I'll lose my freedom of choice. I'll be stuck into something in a contract and I got to use this. But no, if you have the ability, what does that do? It just improves the industry, because you're packaging things, you're making it easier for someone to start out, but you're giving them the freedom of choice, and it's pushing everyone to do better. There's competition on quality of service. So it sounds like it's great, and it's going to be great in the end.
Absolutely.
So now from your perspective, because I know you have a great handle on all this, what is the future? Where are we going with services for home inspectors, or for the industry as a whole? Where is it headed? Where do you see the industry evolving to?
So we saved well over $250K.
Just this quarter, we have saved about $30,000 in credit card fees.
Probably over $1,000 a month at least.
Over $150,000 this year alone.
$180,000 the first year we worked with them, and it's growing every single year.
Thank you, Pair Payments.
Thank you, Pear.
I would recommend them to anyone.
Yeah, I just wish I would have done it sooner.
I think I think there's gonna be a lot of the status quo. I think that a lot of people are worrying right now, but I think we're still gonna have the status quo. And of course, yes, we're all worried about the, interest rates going up, and so there's a slowdown. But it's, economics is very cyclical. So you're gonna have your highs. We've been through it throughout the pandemic. Of course, we're gonna have a slowdown, and again we'll be at a high again. But I think I think the main thing is for home inspectors is that if they add on to their businesses, if they add on ancillary services, if they're performing other things, if they're doing pest control and radon and pool inspections and if they're checking chimneys and they're looking at various different if they're looking to add on to their businesses, their business can be year round and they can make a lot more money from adding on these programs, especially in their markets where they're competing with other people. So
I love that.
For those who are having the forethought to add on now, whether it's an environmental company or they're adding, the one, some companies provide the warranties, some don't. I think you have a leg up on your competition if you're going to be adding on all these different things that you can provide the customer with all these various products and services that that your competition doesn't. And I know that I'm saying this and everyone hears this and they can say, well, I'm going to add this on too. Okay, good. Do that. Because it will make your business more profitable and it will help you stave off the lean, slower times. So, especially if you're in the northern states and it's winter, you got to be able to figure out how to maintain your business throughout.
Absolutely. And even if it's not profitable, there's a really good point you bring up here, which is the peaks and troughs of the economy. As there are the peaks and the troughs of the cycle, there's the same in a business cycle. So how do you combat that? And I see it as diversification of revenue sources, right? So if there's a time where every year inspections go down in volume, what do? Try to find an ancillary service that Dave was talking about that might peak when there's a trough in the home inspection industry. And so now your inspections might be going down in volume, but say you're doing pest control or something that would peak at a different time. Now you're getting revenue in so that you can have team members and continue to pay them, so you can have equipment, continue to pay for it. So I think it's important to look at things like that. As I know everyone's obsessed with profitability, and profitability is huge. But you also need to have the revenue to keep running your business. So even if you find something that might necessarily not be profit producing at the beginning, it might be worth it so that you can kind of diversify and balance out the swings in your revenue cycle throughout the year. What do you think about that?
I agree with you, and I think even for a lot of companies where they're worried about what they're doing marketing wise and how they're selling themselves and what they're doing. The slower times actually doesn't have to be so slow. That's when you can work on your business to improve upon it, whether it's from a website or you're trying to make a better social media presence or you're trying to get more involved in your community and you want to do some philanthropy or whatever it may be that you're trying to improve upon marketing-wise and get your name out there. The slower times tend to give you that opportunity to then look at your company and say, okay, how can I grow this? Whether it's adding on that ancillary service that's right for your business or how to market it differently than you've been doing it all year. Is it this time where you can start talking about looking at other products and services that you were thinking about maybe changing to? That might be a good time to analyze some of these other products and services that you were looking at or you've heard about. There's always something to do to take your mind off the slow times and improve upon your business, where you can then potentially grow. So by the time it comes around the following year, that slow time, you're already ready for it, and you're hitting the ground running, and there's no such thing as a slow time anymore. And that's the ultimate goal.
Absolutely. And so I love that you mentioned marketing, because that's what I want to get into next here. I guess I'll start off with, what do you see in marketing now? What do people have to be doing to keep up in home inspection? And then separately, if you want to touch on it, as you're adding ancillary services, curious, how do you have to change your marketing so that you do stand out and so that it's effective?
Sure. Really, in terms of marketing, it's staying relevant. It's all about staying relevant. If you're putting out the same information over and over again, and you're just using social media, and you're reaching out to just your base, and maybe that's some of your current clients, which then, they might be a one and done client. Do they really need to hear from you too much anymore? Are you promoting to your just your realtor base? Is that necessarily a good thing all the time? I don't agree with that. I think, you reach out with your realtors, of course, but you should be building up your own referral base, whether it's other people in other trades industries that could be potentially referring you. So if you do add on, let's say, a pest control business, and you're trying to grow that, but someone who's gone in the house and they've done any other kind of service, or whether it's construction or whatever, and they see issues in the home, well, you should have somebody that you refer business back and forth with, where then they can say, yeah, I've seen some issues with pest issues in the home, in and around the home. Are you doing decks? Are you doing something else? Well, now you can start promoting these different aspects to your base, and start looking at, maybe a different avenue on social media. Facebook is great for home inspector groups on Facebook, but is that the end-all, be-all way that you want to connect with people on social media? Is there a neighborhood app like Nextdoor that you should be involved in? Have you checked out promoting yourself on Alignable? Have you decided to come up with your own blog? There's Tumblr, there's Reddit. Reddit's a great place to go. Even though it, when it started out, it was a lot of garbage, and it's really grown. And a lot of people find a lot of good information there. Maybe start a blog in your own area, or not a blog, a podcast in your own area. I know you'll be talking about that at our conference there, Jake. But,
absolutely. And we'll get into that more in this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's get in with local radio or newspapers. People should read this stuff. Not necessarily the paper newspaper, but online. There's Patch.com, which is a great source for local news, and you can become a writer for Patch and build your name up that way. So I think there's different ways that you can get involved within your local community and promoting yourself. And as you become more of a local authority, you can then promote your own businesses, your add-on businesses, your ancillary services, so you can take it from a home inspection bent, or talk about home inspection from your whatever platform that you're talking on, and then start talking about, well, there's all these other things that are involved that don't necessarily fall under the scope of a home inspection. Decks, wood-destroying organisms, radon, environmental testing, mold, and all these things that fall under this that you could easily kind of promote on your platforms. But you have to create them in order to promote them.
Absolutely. So before we dive more into this, because I have a couple questions on the marketing, before we dive into that, we're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor, Pair Payments, and we'll be right back.
The home inspection industry is highly competitive, and you need an edge to stay on top. You certainly can't afford to give profit away for no reason. But what if I told you credit card processors may be overcharging you and robbing you of profits you've worked hard to earn? It's time to put an end to being overcharged for payment processing. It's time to take back your profits. That's why we put together a free report, How to Avoid Being Overcharged by Your Payment Processor. Head over to TakeBackYourProfits.com, download the report, and put an end to being overcharged for credit card processing. You've worked hard for your sales, and you deserve to keep it. What are you waiting for? Go to takebackyourprofits.com and download your report today.
All right, and we are back with Dave Kogan, the Director of Integration and Partnerships at Residential Warranty Services. We have had a great talk so far, and I'm excited to get in a little bit deeper on the marketing here, because Dave just gave us some great examples of what you can do and what you can look to do for marketing and really building up your platform and who you're speaking to beyond kind of using the network of previous clients. And hey, yeah, you can tap them for referrals, but if you want to widen that base, there are all these examples Dave gave us right before the break that you can use. But now, Dave, I'm wondering if someone's saying, hey, I'm doing a bunch of stuff, but it's not effective, or hey, I've never done it, how do I do it? I think it's important to talk about the concepts that make these marketing campaigns more effective. And that, in my opinion, comes down to knowing the customer. And so now in marketing, I believe they call it the ideal avatar, or it's the avatar that you're looking to promote to. That's what the buzzword I hear all the time now. And so when you're I know, I agree. But when you think, so when you're thinking about who you're marketing to and who you're speaking to, you have to reach the right person, or else your message will fall on deaf ears, right? Like you could go on Facebook and throw $10,000 at an ad to the general public, and you come to find out it's viewed by all 15-year-olds, and no one owns a house, and no one's going to get a home inspection. So you have to target this stuff. So when I think of it, I think the first most important things are geographic area. Make sure it's in your market that you serve. Geographic area, and then demographics. And then age demographics can go down to age demographics, and it can go down to even the occupations, the salary. And then on Facebook, you can even look at you can target people who click on who are more likely to click on a learn more button that's going to take them to the webpage, or you can click on someone who's more likely to click a call now. So I'm curious, Dave, what do you think is the best way to make these marketing efforts more effective? Is it really focusing on that avatar, that ideal customer, or is it finding a key partnership with someone that you can market with? What do you think you see is working best now?
I think it's different strokes for different folks. I think that's always a really key thing to kind of live by, because if you go into some of these Facebook groups and you listen to other home inspectors, or they tell you, it might be a seasoned home inspector might tell a new guy, oh, I tried this, don't do BNIs, for example. I'll use the BNI, the Business Networking International. Some people will say, oh, this is great, it works for me, and then other guys will say, oh, this is terrible, it doesn't work for me. I don't think anyone should really, I think you should take heed in hearing what people have to say, but if you don't do it for yourself, it may be different in your market. Oh, yeah. And I will explain, there's one guy, and I remember back in my early ASHI days, there was a board member who swore by the Yellow Pages. He advertised in the Yellow Pages, and for those of you who don't know what the Yellow Pages are, it's a phone book that was paper that was delivered to people for free. And you could take ads out in it, and it was great. For those of us who grew up in the non-cell phone era. So, Gen Xers and earlier. So, the Yellow Pages were great. You could put an ad in there or whatever. And then as times moved on, some people said, oh, the Yellow Pages aren't working for me, where other people say, no, they are working for me. So, I think it's just what you have to make sure that your messaging is accurate. Don't be too vague. Don't be too silly. You don't be too tongue-in-cheek. Tell people exactly what your message is, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish for them. Do you have to show cost? No, you don't. That's a time-honored argument between for home inspectors. Don't post what your rates are. No, you should post what your rates are. Again, different strokes for different folks. It works good for some people, and it doesn't work good for other people. Truth be told, you really, could you do like a Valpak mailer? You can do that, and it works for some and doesn't work for others. Would you do it for home inspection? No. Would you do it for potentially your other services? Of course, because that's a year-round service. Where home inspection is a quick thing, and you're probably not going to look at a Valpak coupon and say, oh yeah, I'm going to get my home inspector here. There are other ways to kind of market yourself in that regard for those other services. And I would really look at all the avenues available to you. I mean, you could do a talk on it. You could, partner up with your local hardware store. You could partner up with your local, paint store if you want, because they know when people are coming in to buy neutral color paints, probably to sell their house. Yeah. So you could find different ways of marketing yourself and in your area. And I don't know if anyone, and I'm going to divert here a little bit, but there was a show I used to watch on, I think it's Paramount Network. It used to be Spike TV. It's Bar Rescue. And if anyone's seen this, it's basically a guy yelling at people to fix their bar. Right.
I have his book right there.
Yep. It's a good show. The guy has a lot. He's actually very smart in the science of running a bar. And one of the things he always talks about is the demographics of the area, where you can go to your local community website. I live in Buffalo Grove, Illinois, so I can go to the Village of Buffalo Grove website, and it'll tell me the demographics of my area, of where I live, right on the website. It's a very quick search, and if you hit, you can have someone in the office, or if it's you at night, you're watching whatever TV at night. It doesn't take much to look up the various communities that you target, and go to their websites and find out the demographics really right away. It's a quick spreadsheet, that you make for yourself, so you can find out what are the demographics for the area. Old homes versus new homes. What's the has there been lots of construction lately? Has there not been a lot of construction lately? You can go and see kind of the meeting minutes for your community and find out, is there large construction projects? Are they doing a lot of urban renewal, or are they not? So you can get involved in your community without having to do too much work, and find out what's going on, find out the average age. Is there lots of home sales? You can look that up in Zillow in your area and find out how long homes have been on the market in your area. And you can find out a lot of information on neighborhood apps like Nextdoor and find out what's going on in your neighborhood. People moving in, burglaries, all that kind of stuff, coyotes that people like to talk about. But you can find out all this kind of stuff that really helps out with you growing your business.
Absolutely.
And that's how I would kind of approach it and look at these demographics and it's simple and it's easy and it's free way to get the information that you need. And then go and then do some serious searching on Google to really find out what's going on in your neck of the woods, and kind of look at what other people are doing advertising wise, and either match that or improve upon what they've got.
I think if you're working on growing and you're thinking of having a marketing campaign of any kind, I would consider this due diligence. It's something that you got to do so you have a good understanding of what's going on in your area. And so
absolutely,
past that, I think that it's also really important, aside from the research, which is huge, it's also really important to do testing. Because Dave mentioned so many great ideas for marketing, but like he said, it's not for everyone. Not everything is going to work for everyone. And there's so many options. What I would recommend to do to see what works for you best, not just for you and your company and your mission, but also for the community and how they're going to react to it in your market, I think that you have to kind of A/B test things. You have to split test stuff. You have to say, all right, let's try 3 things, throw $100 at $200, $300, $400, $1,000 at each, and see what gets us more return on our investment, what gets us more leads. So I think that, there's no wrong answer here. I think you just got to go do the due diligence. You got to go through the steps, do the research like what Dave was saying, test some things out. Don't leave anything on the table. Right, Dave?
Exactly. A/B testing is key. You can use the same, vehicle, and I'll say billboards. If you're in an area that has 2 main highways, test 2 different messages on those different highways and see how they work. Use promo codes, people.
And Dave, use promo codes are amazing. Everyone loves a promo code. People will buy something they don't even need just so they can say they got a deal on it. So right. I love. And
there may not be a
codes.
deal.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing. There may not be a deal. You may just say, if your average home inspection is $450 for an average 2,500 square foot home, you could say, hey, on your billboard, 2,500 square foot home is just, $450 for the low price of $450. They don't know what your average cost is. They don't have no idea. You can post that. And you can change the messaging up slightly and put it on a different billboard and see which one does better. And I would put some kind of coding within that so people can say, oh, which highway did you see me on? And so when someone calls, you have to ask that question.
There's a great story for that kind of stuff too, about a deal not being a deal. I mean, even you look at Black Friday, you could go you could go buy a TV that was, say, just for easy math, say it's marked at $50 all year. They mark it up 100% to $100 right before Black Friday, and then on Black Friday they say it's 50% off. It's $50. All right, but all year it was $50, then marked up 100% to then mark it down 50% to get you back to the starting number.
Exactly.
There doesn't even have to be a deal, and people will flock because there's a promo code or an alleged deal.
Exactly. So yeah, there's definite ways to do that, and you can make the pricing slightly different. You can say one's $450 and one's $460. See what the difference is. So I would definitely make sure that you're doing your A/B testing, and run it for a little while and see how it works. That average test time frame is generally about 3 months, depending on what you're going to be doing. That's the best way that you're doing 1/4 of a year, so you really want to make sure. And it's at the opportune time of the year, depending on what you're doing. If it's home inspection, obviously it's spring through fall that you want to test that. And you could potentially do January through March, it's a good time as people are getting ready. Or you could, for wood destroying organisms, if radon, depending on where you are, I would definitely look at the different opportune times of the year for those varying products and services.
Absolutely. And one other thing I do want to touch on real quick that you had mentioned is the billboards, like the A/B testing or split testing, whatever you want to call it, for the billboards is a great idea, because you said there's been an age-old battle of showing the pricing and the messaging or not. And if you're unsure of what to do, just run a billboard for each, see what does better.
Exactly. And a little known fact about billboards, and they're not the LED billboards, but the ones that they actually have to paint up or put the wallpaper on, whatever the design on that they're glowing. A lot of time those companies, though, especially the ones that aren't LED, they don't want to have a blank billboard. So if you pay for 3 months, you might get 6 months out of it. You might get 9 months until someone else pays for that spot. So just, beware that you might be getting some more time out of it. So these are all things that you should really research and find out about. To get more bang for your buck.
Absolutely. I love that. That's cool. That would be awesome if I paid for a 3-month billboard and I got 6 months out of it. I'd love that.
Go to especially here in the Chicago area, you've got, Metra, which is our train stations that go in, not the L, which is around the loop, into the downtown areas and going out into the various neighborhoods around Chicago, but out into the suburbs. It's either Metro or the L service, but those billboards stay up forever because they really want they don't really want to take down to have a blank space. So you might get a lot more bang for your buck in Metro area if that's a way that you want to go.
Absolutely. That is awesome. So for other marketing stuff, I want to jump to now the podcast stuff, because you had briefly mentioned it. And actually, if anyone's familiar with Wolfpack Advising, I had written an article for Aaron Chishoa over there, and this is kind of where this whole podcast marketing discussion started for me. Obviously, I do a podcast in this industry that we're on right now, that you're listening to if you're in the audience. Yep. And then I do a podcast in the pressure washing space. That's called Under Pressure. A lot of the topics kind of translate, so I would check that podcast out if you haven't. There are some amazing topics on there from some amazing people in the pressure washing industry. So with being in this podcast world, I've kind of seen the power of the podcast and what you could do with it as a home inspector. And so Dave had mentioned it because Dave and I had recently had some conversations about this. This is what I'm going to be speaking about in a breakout session at the Inspection Super Conference. And we'll get to some details about that conference very soon. But what I want to talk about is the opportunity you have to market with a podcast. If you need to work on your base organically in your community, and at the same time, you want to do that with real estate agents, kind of nurturing their base and bring some of it to your platform, and also working your relationship with a real estate agent. What can you do? I love using a podcast because you could have Dave and I aren't together right now. Dave's in Illinois, I'm in Boston, and we're connecting via a podcast. So we're using a software, a virtual podcast software. We're connecting. We're talking before, after the show. We talked yesterday. So what does this do? It connects us. It gives us the ability to connect. So I love this, saying, hey, why don't you start a podcast in your community and promote the real estate agents in your community? They're not going to say no. Real estate agents love promotion. They love self-promotion, and they're competitive. So if you get one real estate agent to come on, you talk about them, you promote them, you say, hey, I know that I've known this guy for a while. He'll take care of you. He's great. You push it out to both your audiences. Now he's going to push it out to his audience, so you get the attention of that real estate agent's audience. But now, say Jim Bob, the real estate agent you just had on, has Susie Q, a real estate agent down the street, and now she's competitive and she's jealous that you had Jim Bob on the show. What's going to happen? Susie's going to want to come on your podcast, and there you go. Now you've built up a relationship with one agent. You have another agent now that wants to come on the show and promote, and then they promote to there. So I like to call this network hacking, because what you're able to do is build these relationships with the agents, and it'll snowball from there. Because come on, everyone in your market's going to be want to be on your podcast. If you're promoting agents, you're talking about burning questions that their platform might have. A lot of their customers might have a lot of questions for home inspectors. I'm sure they do. So this is a great opportunity to answer questions, build trust, build legitimacy in your local market, in your area, and basically do everything at once, while kind of siphoning off some of their platform. So I just wanted to mention this because I'm going to be talking about it way more in depth at the Inspection Super Conference. And I just want to tell everyone, if you're going to that conference, come check out this talk. I think this is a great opportunity because podcasts are so low effort and low cost, and they provide such high value to the customers that you're going to build trust, you're going to build relationships, and it's easy to do. So and it's great promotion for your company as well. So Dave, what do you think about using a podcast? I just want to get your take on it before we talk about the Inspection Super Conference.
Well, I think podcasts are great. I mean, it harkens back to the early days of radio, right? Of the talk radio and talkies and everything, and it paints a picture of something that's going on without having to show you pictures of it, right? I mean, you can share screens and all that kind of stuff, but you're getting the information straight from the person's mouth, right? You're not, you're not beating around the bush. You're not sending out a questionnaire. You're not doing a poll. You're not doing any of that kind of stuff. You're sitting down with, the various realtors in your network. You're potentially sitting down with a competitor in your network. You're sitting down with other referral links, potentially civic leaders. You're the people that you end up sitting down with and having these, the podcast chats, or whatever you want to call them, fireside chats, or doing even a Facebook Live kind of an event where it still feels like that podcast kind of feel, or the Between Two Ferns kind of feel, that you're chatting with these people, and unbeknownst, I think, to a lot of people, is that you are indeed building that network, even though people don't feel like they're building the network, but you really are.
It's organic.
I think it's an invaluable tool to growing your network and your base. So now people have been on your show, they're going to feel like they really need to, turnabout is fair play. They need to refer you and say, hey, yeah, I worked with this other guy, but I was on Jake's show and I really need to refer Jake, because he treated me well. I'm going to do it back to him. So yeah, absolutely. Podcasting is a huge way, and super inexpensive way to really get yourself out there.
And conversations like this, like right now we're having an in-depth conversation. We already know each other pretty well. So we're not going to break much ground on a personal relationship aspect. But what you can do is see the difference of, all right, if I go to someone's office and I'm teaching a class or I'm handing out candy or some information, there's going to be a much different conversation than you're going to have when you're doing a podcast. There, you're getting the professional, how you doing kind of stuff, how your kids, how's your mom. But you go to do a podcast, you're going to get way more in depth in the conversation. You're going to become better, I don't want to just say better friends, because that might not be your goal, but you're going to have a deeper relationship because you're talking in depth about things. You're going to have a greater understanding about the person and all that. So I think it's a very powerful
when you're in the
tool.
office, when you're in an office, you're dressed up really nice. I mean, you're in a t-shirt and I'm in a t-shirt and a half zip sweatshirt right now. Like you can see the crap in my closet. Like it's not, we're seeing our personal spaces. We're not in that professional space. We're not in a boardroom. The lights aren't dim. You're not looking at a PowerPoint presentation and potentially being bored by a PowerPoint presentation. You're talking very informally to really get to know somebody. And even if it is on a more superficial first date, small talk kind of level, it's still, that's the whole point of building those relationships. And while people may think that you're really, how is this building my relationship? You're going to go, I'm going to leave here, Jake's going to leave here, and we're going to have a question and call each other up later, even though that we're friends and we've been friends for a while. If I had known him, if I had come up with a question later on after this podcast, I'm going to be more apt calling him up and asking him that question than having, just met him at a meeting at my office and, well, maybe I'm not going to bother him with this question. Maybe this is a silly question or so. I don't want to take up his valuable time. But now I have no problem doing it. It's been more informal and it's more like a friendly chat or a friendly banter that I have no problem just texting him out of the blue and asking him something. So or asking him, hey, can you do this for me? Or can you, let's exchange some services or something. So,
that's
podcasting is a great informal way to get to know people on a more professional level, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And if anyone in the audience wants me to talk more about this, please reach out. I do a whole episode on it if anyone's interested, and kind of run through what I'm going to be talking about at the Inspection Super Conference, which is not only what it can do for your business, but how to do it. I'm going to be talking about, how to implement this, how to get it rolling, who you want to be targeting and talking to, how to publish it, how to record it, how to get editors or how to edit it. There's all these different ways you can do it, and some are much more low cost, some are much more high cost. So I'm going to talk about all the options. But if you want to hear about it, you can listen. Let me know. I'll do a podcast about it, or come to the Inspection Super Conference. I'm going to be doing a breakout session there called, I believe, what did I title it? It's Network Hacking Through Podcasts.
Yes, Network Hacking with Podcasts from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. on Thursday. I believe it's Thursday, September 15th.
So I'm excited for that. Come check that out. But if you aren't going to be at ISC, Dave, could you give us some information on why come to ISC, and then what are the dates for that?
So first and foremost, ISC, Inspection Super Conference, for those not in the know, but now we'll start calling it ISC. But ISC is taking place September 14th through the 17th this year in Indianapolis. So it's at the Sheraton Indianapolis Hotel at Keystone Crossing. It's $100 to attend. So, you're getting $100. It's for $100. You're getting 4 days. It's truly 4 days of great classes. A lot of CEs. So if you're in a state that licenses, or you need your ASHI CEs or your NACHI CEs, even your California CREA CEs, and then certain states will have. I think Illinois has 9 CEs. Arkansas, which has never really approved. They're approving CEs now from our conference. New York State has approved CEs from our conference. So you can get up to 20 CEs in most states, and a handful we've got listed on our sites. You just go to inspectionsuperconference.com/ I think it's CE-credits or something like that, and you can find out the CEs. But just go to inspectionsuperconference.com and you can go from there to scheduling, see our vendors, see the wonderful classes and the updates that we've gotten. It's really chock full with a lot of like I said, the CE courses provided by Mike Casey and his crew. You've got John Bolton, Charles Belfontaine, Jeff Clare, all involved with Home Inspection University and the classes that they put out. And then we've got a lot of great marketing from experts in the industry. We've got Jake with the network Hacking with Podcasts, which is I'm very excited to sit in on that one. Mm-hmm. But we've got Aaron Shishilla and Austin Hintz from Wolfpack Advising. We've got Mackenzie Peralt from she's home inspection business in Rhode Island, and she's going to talk about social media. Dominic Mirasek is going to talk about some of the latest updates from HIP, but also about some marketing and business as well. And we've got all the usual suspects. You've got Mike Crow. We have Wally Conway. We've got some newcomers like Fred Stenard out of Connecticut. We've got really a whole litany of different courses that you could take, whether it's on the technical business or marketing side, which I think a lot of people will get a lot of useful knowledge out of. And again, you can't beat it. It's $100. Room nights are $139 plus tax. If you're driving in, parking is free. It's a fraction of the cost of any conference out there. And truthfully, if you can't make our conference, you go to our sister conference, and that's in November, the 9th through the 12th, I believe, Inspection Fuel. So, and that will be in Nashville at the Opryland. Yeah, 9th through the 12th at the Opryland in Nashville. So, and that will be a great conference. And again, CE courses, marketing courses, lots of great speakers there as well. There's plenty of time to exhibit with us or with them if you choose one or over the other, or do both, because I think, conferences are a great way to network in person. That's the main reason that you go to these things, not just for the education, but for networking. So, and meeting with your peers, whether they're from the same town or from the same regional area or from across the country.
And I want to say as well, I just from my experience a bit of kind of traveling around to a bunch of events the past few years, these events are all what you make of them as well. An event like this, the Inspection Super Conference, you could go and be at the bar every single day and get nothing out of it, or you could go and, like marketing, do your due diligence and work on the network and go to the classes, and you're going to come out of it saying, wow, this is the best event I've ever been to. This was fantastic. Right? It's all what you take out of it.
I agree 100% with any conference, whether it's in the home inspection field or marketing, real estate, or the Consumer Electronics Show. It doesn't matter what conference you're going to. And it's not about how much you're paying to go. I think people focus too much on how much something costs to attend it. I think the main thing is that is it good education, and are you going to be involved in conversations? If you're looking to go and meet up with your peers and go out to dinner every night when there's events at night, you're missing out. I think if you go there and you meet up with, you meet some people and you're in class, you're sitting next to someone and they're really interesting. There's lots of little nooks and crannies in most hotels to go sit down and have a quiet conversation. You can go to the bar and have a conversation at night. But immerse yourself in the event, because you're not going to get the ROI that you think you're going to get by just going and then hitting up the bar and going out to restaurants and meeting with your peers. You have to be involved and you have to be present.
I want to touch on something you mentioned, which was that people get hung up on the price, because I have a really good point to argue that if someone's getting hung up on the price for an event like this, is that something you hear a lot, that people are hung up on the price? I know this is a low-cost event, but for these events in the industry, is it a huge sticking point that the price holds people back?
Yes, it is. I mean, right now, travel costs $1 bazillion. I mean, I get that. And so flying somewhere that used to cost a couple $100 might be 2 times or 3 times the price. So I totally understand flying somewhere and then thinking about a hotel it just puts people off right now.
So just for my audience, sorry, continue. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So for my audience, I want to do a little bit of a math example here. So for say 2 people, it's you and a teammate, go to this event, Inspection Super Conference. What do you, just round numbers, what would you expect them to spend to get to the event for 2 people? I just want to do some math here.
Okay, so if you're staying, whatever, if you come in like, let's say the 13th, and you're leaving the 17th, so you're checking out the 17th, you're staying full day, and then you're flying out that night, or you're staying for half the day, whatever it may be. So 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. That's 5 nights that you're staying there, right? 13th, 14th, 15th. Yeah. So you got 5 nights. You share a room with with your colleague. You don't necessarily. I mean, if you want to get separate rooms, that's up to you. It's about It's $139 a night plus 17% tax. I know that sounds high. So you're adding on another $15-20 per room. So let's say it's, instead of being $140, it's really $160. Ballpark it. I've got my lovely handy dandy calculator.
Perfect.
So you got 160 times 5. You're talking $800 for the room.
All right.
That's not food.
Yeah. So let's round it up and say, all right, you're spending $2,000 for 2 people for an event.
Right.
But we're going to be very, very conservative with the numbers here. So say you spend $2,000 for an event, and hold off the marketing, because I think marketing is the most valuable aspect, is the relationships you can build, whether it's with suppliers, whether it's with people in your market who are going to tell you how to reach your area better, the customers in your area. Regardless, hold off the marketing just for these courses and things like that. If you can learn something that saves you 5% a year, increases, let's say, if you can learn one thing in a class that'll increase your revenue by 5% a year. That's a really small number. 5% a year, right?
Yes.
Something to increase your revenue, your profitability by 5% a year. Say, let's do some math here. If you're doing $1 million in revenue and you can do something that earns you an extra 5% a year, that's $50,000 a year. So that one event is going to pay for itself in like a month. So I see there's so much on the table that you can learn at these events, and I'm a huge proponent of events because I myself have learned so much from these events, just information that translates to other industries. I'm not a home inspector, and I've learned amazing concepts and just techniques and things to do with these events. So you learn something from the event, you bring it home, just take action, and these events are going to be way more than worth it. At 10%, you're saving $100,000 in a year if you're able to increase the effectiveness of your business by 10% if you're at $1 million. So that is just like, it goes to show you. I just want to do the easy math for the audience to say, hey, look at this. If you're worried about the cost of these events, and I get it, if you're small, it can be a daunting number to say, hey, we're going to pay this much to go to the event. But if you want to grow your business, you need to go to the right people who have been there before. You need to find who those people are. Maybe you don't even know where to begin. Go to an event, talk to a bunch of people in person. Everyone is so willing to share, and that's at all events across the board. Do you see that at the Inspection Super Conference as well? Is there just amazing community and like culture of sharing?
I do. It's a great event. You've got a lot of people involved. You've got a lot of different of the groups out there involved. IEB, Inspection Go. There's us. We have our top group that shows up. So you have a lot of people who have a lot of experience being able to share their knowledge with the vendors who are imparting their knowledge. And you've got new people who may know something a little bit more about computers and social media than some of your older members. So there's a lot of knowledge being shared in that regard. But if you want to look at it strictly from a CE point of view, okay, let's say you're going there strictly for the education. You got to say to yourself, how many credits can I possibly get? How many classes provide CE? So for us, we've got 14 classes that provide CEs. Okay, so for $100, that's about $7.15 per CE course that you're taking. So if you take all 14, you're spending $7 per CE credit.
Wow.
Per 2 CE credit per class. That's 2 CEs per class. That's crazy cheap. Crazy cheap. And even with ASHI, when they used to do it back in the day, they used to have 45 classes for $595. It was still like six. If you were able to take every single class, which you couldn't, but if you took, I think it was the 9 classes, which was 18 credits, it still came out to like $66 a credit. So when you look at that, what other industry are you get? I mean, yes, there's a lot of free CEs online. You can get it all over the place. And yes, you have to join a lot of associations. You have to join them. So you're, when you say, it's free with NACHI, it's free with ASHI, it's It's really not. You're paying for a membership fee to be able to get those classes for free. So if you attend a conference, you know, and you're not getting the free CEs online somewhere, you're talking $66 a CE at that point. So when you look at it, when you break it down from that point of view, it's incredibly cheap. And especially when you look at a realtor who has to pay thousands to get some of these credits, their CE credits.
Yeah,
it puts it in perspective.
It does put it in perspective, and I think these events are a no-brainer. I mean, absolutely, come to any event that Pair Payments is at so that you can see me, say hi to me, but also, I'm glad you mentioned vendors. You can go to a vendor, for an example, Pair Payments. You come to Pair Payments at an event, you can find our service, no-fee credit card processing, and what does that do? It allows you to add 15 to 30% to your profit margin overnight once you just institute no-fee processing. Now, you might not have ever heard of the no-fee processing or how to do it the right way, the most effective way. You might not have heard that it's something you could even do or that worked in the home inspection industry, and it works fantastic. It's a great product, great service in the home inspection industry. But that's the thing, is you can go to one of these events, learn in the CE. You can learn from classes that aren't even CE, something that can go and add, you know, a certain percentage to your bottom line right away, and you can learn from the vendors. You can also have mentors, find someone to guide you through your growth journey. There's just so many aspects to these events that, for me, it's a no-brainer, Dave. I know for you too, but for me, it's a no-brainer.
Yes, and I've only been in the home inspection. It'll be 10 years in the home inspection space next June for me in the home inspection industry from a marketing capacity. But from all the other industries that I've worked in, it's, you know, it's the same thing. It's not just the CEs are just part of it. If you're in the state that licenses, it's just part of the whole aspect of going to a conference. So my feeling is that if I'm flying somewhere, if I'm driving somewhere, as soon as I get out of that vehicle, whether it's a plane, a train, an automobile, as soon as I touch ground in that location, I'm on until I get back in that transportation to go home. Like, you have to make the most of what you're getting out of that space. So if you're going there and you're going off with your buddies and it's a great time for you to meet up with that guy in Florida or that guy in California that you don't normally get to see, that's great for you, but is it really worth the cost of you going there as opposed to just flying out and seeing your buddy in California or Florida?
And one thing I want to make clear as well.
Of everything.
Yeah, and you got to do your due diligence. Be prepared when you go to these. Take advantage to the max. Make these as maximally effective for you as possible. But we're not saying not to have fun, because I know Dave and I both know that a lot happens outside of the scheduled stuff in the event, right? There's going to be dinners that you want to go on. There's going to be times that you go to the bar to have a drink and you meet someone sitting next to you that you're chatting with. There's going to be cocktail hours, whatever it is. Go have fun at these events. Be yourself, have fun, but take advantage of every opportunity that's laid in front of you. And we've been around the block, so we know that a lot of these events you're going to have some of the most effective relationships be built in those fun times. So we're not saying don't have fun, just take advantage.
Exactly. Take as much advantage as you can of the people around you, of your time spent at this location. You're not working. You know, I mean, you might take calls here and there, but the reality is that you're not at home and you're not working. So, you know, when you think about it, I'm at a conference, I'm losing money. You're not losing money. You are never losing money when you're at a conference. Yes, you spent money, but you're not losing it. You're actually gaining knowledge that replaces it. So you got to look at it that I've spent money and I'm paying for, as if the age-old arguments, if you join a fraternity or sorority at school, are you buying friends or are you making friends? So the reality is that you're spending money to make connections. And to, whether it's the instructors, whether it's the peers, whether it's the staff, whether it's the vendors, and as you mentioned with vendors, and I can't stress this enough, if you're going into a vendor hall and you're hoping to touch something that's tangible, and they may not have something that's tangible, and you get kind of upset that this guy doesn't have a ruler, or this guy doesn't have an IR camera, or this guy doesn't have a moisture meter or something that you can physically touch. The reality is that you should do your due diligence. Look on the vendor page. That's why it's there. Click on the links, visit your vendors, and then come up with some tangible questions of something that's new that's coming out, if they're promoting something on their website, it's going to be front and center. So if you have questions about it, make sure that you come armed with those questions. Vendors may not be teaching a class, they may not, but they're there for the entire hall.
Yeah.
For you to ask those questions.
And, when we're buying something online, what do? We look at reviews. So when you're at these events, you have a perfect opportunity to say to someone, hey, do you use that vendor? What do you think? Mm-hmm. So you have a great opportunity for some social evidence, social proof there, like real in-person reviews. So yeah, there's so much to take advantage of these events. I love these events. I hope to see you there. And Dave, is there anything else that we haven't mentioned about the Inspection Super Conference that we got to mention?
Well, I really mentioned everything about Super Conference.
I know we covered a lot.
You know what? It's going to be a smaller amount of people this year because it is Indianapolis. We just had the Bellagio in Vegas last October, which was a fun time.
What a beautiful hotel.
We helped out. It was a great hotel. Too expensive for my blood, but it was a great event. And then we took over for ASHI in January and helped out a lot of home inspectors there. So yes, Indianapolis. I know people aren't excited about going to Indianapolis. However, it is inexpensive. We're providing food for people the entire time because there aren't a whole lot of food options. So
that's great.
Giving you every opportunity to spend all your time with your peers and giving you those opportunities to. There are a couple times where you can go sneak away after an event. A couple evenings we've got something going until 8:30, 9 o'clock. It gives you plenty of time before bed to go meet up with a peer or steal away a moment in a nook and cranny. But I implore everybody to take advantage of all the classes that's being offered and meet with all the speakers that you possibly can, because it really does give you the opportunity to really learn from everybody who's there. And don't look at it as an expense. Look at it as a plus.
I like to think of it as a slingshot effect, right? Like, you're pulling back for a couple of days, but now when you get home and you let go, you're off to the races. So,
Absolutely.
Also, if you're looking to grow your business, this should be a goal that you can next time go to an event and not have to worry that your business is slowing down when you're not there, because now you have a team member that can pick up the slack when you're not there. And that's something you can learn how to do while you're at an event like this.
Absolutely. I know that there are local events and there's state associations, whether it's chapter or state association or a national event. So if you can't make us, really head out to Inspection Fuel. It's not the normal business courses like it was in the past. There are CEs. There's a lot more to do there as well. So it's our sister conference. Definitely make it a point to go to them. And again, visit with everybody that you possibly can. The more you go to some of these things, the more you meet your peers and get to know them better, and B, get to know the players in the industry and find out who people are really that you can learn from. Those who are not naysayers but more positive about what they do and they're excited about what's going on. Those are the guys that you really want to get involved with, men and women.
Absolutely. And so I love promoting events, whether it's in this industry, whether it's the Inspection Super Conference, whether it's the IEB events, whether it's the stuff in the pressure washing community. I've been promoting events like crazy because I've been to a bunch. I've seen their effect on the people that go to these events and get the most out of them. So I want to say, hey, Dave, where do people go to sign up for the Inspection Super Conference? When do the signups close? What's the website? How do they reach out to you? Give us the information.
So for us, they can if you're a top member, it's a totally different website. I'm not going to mention it here, but it's that's mentioned in our top group. But for anyone else, it's inspectionsuperconference.com. You can register right on the homepage. Registration is not closing, so you won't have a nice fancy badge with your name printed on it if you show up at the conference. But you can show up, you can walk in and join us right then and there at the Sheraton Indianapolis Hotel at Keystone Crossing.
That's awesome.
Some people think it's the Marriott. It's not. It's the Sheraton.
It looks like a great
You
hotel.
can also, the room block is I've talked with the hotel. We've extended it so you get our rate of $139 a night, up until this Friday, September 2nd. So end of day, 11:59 p.m. That's when we lose it again. And I'm sure I could squeak in a little bit more, but
could you? Because I'm going to rush this episode. But if anyone is listening to this episode and wants to come, is it possible to extend it just past Friday, just in case this episode gets out on Friday afternoon or Friday morning?
Yes, people can reach me at Dave Kogan, Kogan. My name's like right here in the corner. I don't know if people can see it. It's right there.
That might not show up, but in post we will have Dave's name up there. Right. So yes, Dave Kogan.
So if you put Dave Kogan at porch.com, you can find me and email me. If you need a room past this Friday, let me know, and I can work out with the hotel. That's not a problem. But there is free parking, easily drive in. Gas has been going down a bit. So I would say, if you're within driving distance, make it a trip. Bring your spouse. There's plenty of, if it's just you, maybe bring, if it's just you in the business, if it's you and another inspector, you've got people that cover your jobs that are going on back home. Bring people out so they can take advantage. You want them to learn as much as you, and if you've got your business owner and your spouse is involved as well, bring them out. We've got lots of business and marketing as well to go on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I also want to point anyone in this audience who's new to events or has struggled at events. If you want to learn how to take more advantage of the events, go to actually reach out or look to the Under Pressure podcast page, because I recently did an episode with Brad Williams, who's been a guest on this podcast multiple times. And Brad and I really broke down how to take advantage of events and how to prepare for them, what your checklist kind of should be at these events, and just how to get the most out of them. So go check that out on Under Pressure. I might be posting that on this page, but if not, check it out on Under Pressure podcast. It's on the same stuff. All this is on. This podcast is on all the podcast apps. But yeah, go to these events. Take advantage of them. There's so much opportunity out there. And then one other person who's been a guest on this podcast, who's going to be at Inspection Super Conference that I'm excited to hear from, is Matt Smith. Did you mention that he was going to be at this show?
Yes,
I don't know if
Matt Smith will be.
So do you know what his is it his I believe it's his team that's doing the class, right? Is that what, or are they both?
His team is doing something for our top members. Yes, it's Matt and Sarah Stonecipher are going to be talking.
Awesome.
For our top members.
They are awesome. So yeah, if you're a top member, definitely go to that. Matt and Sarah are awesome. But I highly recommend, if you've seen someone on this podcast that's a past guest, go reach out to them, ask me to introduce you to them, come ask questions to anyone. But guys like Matt Smith, there's a reason why I've had him on the podcast. Guys like Dave Kogan, they know their stuff. These are the experts I want to interview on this podcast. So if you go to this event, Matt Smith is one of those guys that you need to think of beforehand. Hey, I want to go ask him some questions because he is doing great. How do I, learn as much as possible from him?
And feel free to reach out to any of us, obviously Jake or myself. We can definitely help you out with getting prepared for conferences. I would love to have I don't think Brad or his wife Nikki are coming to our conference. I would love to have them come. I'll reach out to Brad maybe, but I'd love to have them just to come out because they are a great wealth of knowledge. Oh, yeah. And again, he is a great person to reach out to about how to prepare yourself and what to do, and he's got a wealth of knowledge as well. So
absolutely
think about that.
Thank you. And hey, if anyone wants to check out that Under Pressure podcast and you're liking it, we're doing live shows over there Thursdays at 1 p.m., me and Brad. So if you like the idea of that and that's something that you'd want in the home inspection industry, please let me know. We can get that going in Inspection Pros and start doing a live show. I would love that. So let us know if any questions, if there's anyone or anything you want on the show. Let me know some guests to have on. Leave some reviews, comment, DM, but please, above all else, share this with any inspectors that you think this can help. If you know someone who's just starting out or someone who's plateauing or wants to grow their business to the moon, share this podcast with them. We have so many experts and industry influencers like Dave who come on the show and open up to us, share their advice and insights. So take advantage of that in your community. Share it to a guy that could help. So thank you. Thank you very much, Dave, for coming today. This has been a fantastic episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm sure we'll have you on again, and I cannot wait to see you in Indianapolis.
Yep, see you in a couple weeks.
All right. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, rate the show. Please. That helps a lot. But if you like what you're listening to, please help us out a little bit. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, let me know what you want to hear. We'll get it on the show. I appreciate you tuning in. If you've listened this long, thank you very much. And I will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Inspection Pros Podcast. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the bell so you won't miss our next episode. This episode was produced by Jake Aronson. This has been a Pair Payments production.